Funding for this program is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you.
This law enforcement officer is chasing a man armed with a knife who's taken a hostage. A second man, carrying a gun, is believed to be with him.
Shut up! Shut up, I gotta think! Shut up, I tell you!
Oh, please, let me go.
Shut up or I'll hurt you! I'll kill you! Now shut up! That's it, that's what I'm telling you, now shut up! Shut up!
God, I'm so scared.
I don't care how scared you are, shut up, I'm gonna hurt you! I'll catch you right now, you bitch! Drop the knife now! Get out of here! Now! I'm leaving with her! You're not gonna get out of here with her! Get out of here!
Throw in the situation, drop the knife now! Drop it! Turn around, both, please!
This is just a training exercise, but it's very close to reality. A powerful computer instantaneously alters the image on the screen in line with the student's responses. From basic training to the most sophisticated of investigations, computers are transforming the way the FBI works.
All right, let's talk about something here. Don't bring the gun down so fast. There could be someone else come out. So make sure the gun stays up until you're sure that the threat is already gone. Whenever you
To keep
shoot,
one
make
step
sure
ahead
the
of
gun
today's
comes up to your
increasingly
eye.
sophisticated criminals, the FBI has invested heavily in new technology. It's also using tough new laws and aggressive undercover techniques. The Bureau is right at the forefront of criminal detective work. But has it miscalculated the real cost of these innovations?
We do have a serious crime problem, but I think that we need to recognize that we also have some very treasured personal liberties. And I think they need to be careful that they recognize that the war on crime is not so important that we ought to forget about those principles that we've all revered for many, many years in this country.
Law enforcement would grind to a halt without the technical and forensic backup that's provided by the FBI in Washington, D.C. More than 600 experts assess evidence from crime scenes across the nation. They are the backbone of the Bureau's reputation for excellence. It's a huge operation. 35,000 fingerprints are processed every day. Nearly 250,000 items examined each year. Without the microchip, this workload would be all but impossible.
The FBI's computer system is the size of a football field. We have approximately 2.5 million inquiries a day, and the FBI would be nowhere close to being as effective as it is now without state-of-the-art computer technology. We operated for many years with hundreds of thousands and millions of 3x5 index cards stored in various field offices without any central access. Very complicated investigations used to require hundreds and hundreds of agents over a period of time. It was much more difficult for the FBI to get its job done. These days, this computer power makes it possible for us to make these cases by pouring through the voluminous data and also make a lot of connections that we would have not normally made by using just sheer manpower itself.
The FBI is now even using computers to help solve murders. In 1991, the mother of these two young people was killed. She was shot by her lover, a man called Larry Grote. He'd said it was an accident, and he might have gotten away with it if the police hadn't called in the FBI's computer experts.
I mean, I was in shock at what happened, you know, like I lost everything. Larry has really ruined my life, my brother's life. in my sister's life. He really has.
The killer was a gun collector. He'd shot Lois Johns in the back. Her body was found face down on a bed in his house in Tampa, Florida. A detective from the Tampa force was called in to investigate.
When we first met with him, he said he had been trying to load a gun similar to this one and had pulled the slide back like this, and when he let it forward, the gun discharged, and he didn't have any idea why it did. It was an accident. He didn't intend to shoot Ms. Johns.
Did you believe him?
At that point, I didn't have any reason not to believe him, but subsequently, physical evidence we found in the bedroom would indicate that he was not telling us the truth.
Grote said he'd been standing to one side of the bed when the gun went off, but the detective noticed that the lethal bullet had also passed through the mattress. A pointer indicated that the shot must have been fired from directly above the victim.
The problem was demonstrating in court where her position was in relationship to where the hole was through the bed, because she had been moved after she was shot. So we didn't have photographs of her exact position, so we needed to have some kind of a display putting her back in the position she was at when she was shot in relation to the bed.
Detective King asked the FBI to help. He thought the only way of convincing the jury was to recreate on a computer what had really happened that night.
To tell them the facts of what had transpired would be very difficult for the jury to understand. We have learned in the past that a picture basically speaks 1,000 words. So knowing that, the first thing I did was have the shooter get up on the bed, walks across. As he climbs up behind the victim, he then fires the shot. We noticed that one of the problems we had was the bullet path that went through the woman's body did not line up with the bullet path that went through the mattress. By rotating her body to match the two bullet paths, told us, one, she was awake, and two, she was pushing herself up off of the bed. This told us basically that the shooter was directly above her at the time the shot was fired.
The technology is fantastic. The ability to recreate things in one diagram or photograph that would take hours to describe is just, for court presentation, is just, I don't think it's beatable.
So without this evidence, do you think you'd have got a conviction?
I think it would have been difficult, a lot more difficult than it was.
Larry Grote is now serving a 22-year prison sentence. Every police department in the country now has almost instant access to the FBI's computer. Run from this space-age control room, the National Crime Information Center, the NCIC, contains a huge bank of criminal statistics.
We have over 110,000 terminals throughout the United States. Hundreds of thousands of law enforcement officers can get access to this system. There are approximately 1.5 million transactions on the NCIC system each day, indicating to us that it is absolutely an essential part of every law enforcement officer getting their job done every day.
You are under arrest. Come out of the car with your hands up.
This is NCIC in action. Before NCIC, there was no way to identify this out-of-state felony car in seconds. Before NCIC...
Since 1967, the NCIC has provided lists of stolen property, wanted fugitives, and criminal records. J. Edgar Hoover introduced it, but he took a lot of persuading.
Mr. Hoover had a great disbelief in it. He felt that it might be a considerable waste of money. But we argued the point, And he finally indicated, okay, we'll give it a try out, but if it doesn't work, it's going to come out of Deloach's pay. And I was willing to risk that. So it was tried, and it did. It was a great boon to law enforcement. It became so good that Mr. Hoover immediately picked up on it and started, telling his associates, and started broadcasting the speeches and so on, and eventually it became his idea, which was fine, because it was great, and he pushed it, he supported it. And today it's a great boon to law enforcement, a great help to them.
The NCIC is only as good as the information that's put into the computer. Terry Dean Rogan is a law-abiding citizen, but the NCIC had him down as an outlaw, wanted for murder and robbery, just because he'd lost his wallet. It had been found by the real fugitive who adopted Rogan's name and used his identification. Once his name got into the computer, Terry Dean Rogan found he couldn't get it out again, even though the police were making his life a misery.
Well, once I was stopped on Holland Street in Saginaw, and I was surrounded by 10 or 12 policemen, and they all had the guns on me. And another time I was stopped in Bay City, that's about 11 miles from where I live here in Saginaw, and they took me down to the police station and handcuffed me to a railing until they found out I wasn't the person they was looking for about 6 hours. I was handcuffed there. And another time I was in Denton, Texas, and I was stopped by Texas Rangers. He pulled his gun out up to me and put it up to my head and handcuffed me, and took me down to the local jail and kept me there for another 4 or 5 hours. It had a tremendous effect on my life, thinking about how people can have so much control and authority over your life, where they can determine if you're innocent or guilty. I went to the F.B.I. because I was fearful of my freedom. And I talked to an F.B.I. agent down there, and I told him the situation. And he checked his computer, and he said, yeah, you're right. I said, well, what can you do about this here? He said, well, I can't do nothing about this until this guy is caught.
Terry Dean Rogan had to sue the police to get his name removed from the NCIC. The FBI said the accuracy of information in the computer wasn't its responsibility. It was up to the users to get their facts right.
I felt like I was being victimized. I felt like here I am, I'm a law-abiding citizen, and I felt like I was just wasn't nobody when I walked out of there, angry and didn't have no rights.
The system has been changed to prevent another case like Terry Dean Rogan's, but mistakes do still happen, and the FBI's handling of the Rogan case left much to be desired. If the experts cannot yet rule out honest mistakes, what can they do about dishonest users? How safe is the sensitive information in the NCIC from prying eyes?
The FBI itself authorizes individually every organization in the United States that has a right to this by reviewing the appropriate laws and regulations. And without the FBI approving in advance, no agency has access. And then after that, you have various other levels of security that have to do with the people, passwords, identification, and so forth.
So how difficult would you say it is to, if you like, crack the system, if you're crooked and you want to get information illegally?
We don't believe the NCIC system has ever been cracked. We have no evidence of it, and we look for that a lot.
Al Schweitzer is a private detective who has got a lot to say about the security of the NCIC. Until recently, Schweitzer ran a business near Seattle with a great sales pitch. For a price, he claimed, he could get almost any information on any subject. Schweitzer says he made over $4 million, some of it illegally, by obtaining information from government computers. One of them was the NCIC.
The security of the NCIC system is non-existent. Just about every private eye in the country can have access in one way, shape, or form. I could have a criminal history within moments. I would receive a phone call and somebody had to have it right away. And then I would call one of my sources within the law enforcement community, whether it be in the state police or the local police or a federal law enforcement agency. Give him the subject's information, the name and date of birth. And I would get it back from him the next morning via the fax. They look something like this. The computer. This is an actual computer printout. This is not a fax copy. This came right out of the computer, and it provides you with a quite detailed list or quite detailed synopsis of the individual's criminal history: his name, date of birth, physical description, height, weight, color, hair. It's got his F.B.I. number, any aliases that he may use, the fingerprint codes, his social security number. And then it goes into the details of his arrest record. For instance, in 1977, he was arrested for drunk driving on the highway. And then it tells the disposition of that. He pled guilty to that. It's very detailed. It could be your entire criminal history, whether you've been arrested 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Sometimes they are not entirely accurate. They don't always tell you the disposition or the outcome of the arrest. But for the most part, it's the best system there is.
All Schweitzer needed to crack the NCIC was the fax, a phone, and a few friends in high places. The F.B.I. may have prevented outsiders from getting into the system, but it hasn't taken enough notice of the insiders who've been getting the information out.
Most of the private investigators in this country are former law enforcement people. That gives you a membership card into the Old Boy Network. As long as old boys and old buddies and old colleagues handle the information, that makes access available to everybody else here in the private sector.
So these were people who are acting against the law within the police force or the F.B.I., giving this information?
Correct.
What motivates them to do that?
Money. Money. There's three kinds of sources. There's the one that'll do it because he owes you a favor. One that does it because he's your friend and is helping you out. And then the guy who does it for money. All my people did it for money.
And what did you pay them?
Anywhere from $30 a piece to a high of $50 a piece for rep sheets. If I wanted more difficult to obtain information, which in other systems it may be somewhat more.
The most sensitive information in the FBI is in the computers that agents use themselves. If the NCIC has been broken into, how secure is this system?
The internal FBI computer system has in many cases as much security as the highest secrets that the government has. Much of this information is extremely sensitive, has impacts on national security, international implications, as well as very, very confidential sources. And in order to ensure the effectiveness of the FBI and continue to be able to have that kind of information to do our job, it's essential that we provide this protection.
Once you become a member of the clique here, and a trusted member, everything is accessible in one way, shape, or form. You may not be able to get the actual documents, or maybe you can, but you can get the information. The information can be had. And obviously, the more sensitive the investigation, if we're talking about intelligence matters or that type of domestic intelligence, they're going to be a little bit more difficult, but they too can be had.
Have you ever had information out of the internal system?
Sure, the organized crime intelligence system and many other documents, yes.
Schweitzer was eventually caught. He was sentenced to 3 years probation and 500 hours of community service.
As part of a deal to reduce my sentence, the government has asked me to teach them how to protect the privacy of confidential government records. You know, if they need that, then obviously they still have a problem. Just because they caught me, it hasn't changed a thing. Heck, the first thing that happened after I got indicted is all the other brokers or people involved in this industry went after my clients. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. The law hasn't changed. The scale of the operations haven't changed as it continues to grow as we speak.
523, go ahead. Yeah, 523, We're going to make a U-turn to get to that residence. Right after we make the U-turn, you'll see to your right the alleyway.
High technology is not the only new weapon in the FBI's fight against modern crime. The Bureau has also transformed its investigative approach, as shown by the way it's tackling white-collar crime.
Today we're heading out right now to part of Texas, Mesquite, Texas. We have a subject who worked for a corporation in Dallas as a bookkeeper, and over a course of approximately 2 years, she embezzled $1.6 million. Our first stop will be out at her residence. After we seize everything there, besides being a bookkeeper, she set up a sprint car racing business that her and her son ran. So hopefully today, all the investigation will pay off and we'll be able to seize it all.
That 10-4 is address marked on the back?
Once you go in the alleyway, you'll see it right on your immediate left after you've turned into the alleyway. Over.
According to the FBI, bank fraud, embezzlement, and other white-collar crimes now cost the nation more than $200 billion each year. It's a crippling drain on the economy and one of the FBI's major concerns. The subject of this raid made a fortune by forging signatures on company checks. The agents are using a new federal law introduced at the end of the 80s to seize all this criminal's illegally purchased property.
Special Agent Morris and Special Agent Frank with the FBI. We've got a warrant to execute on certain items of property located in your residence. Thank you.
Thanks.
This is the first time an FBI property seizure has been filmed.
Okay. Let me go ahead and provide you with a copy of this warrant. Here's the original one that was signed by the magistrate judge. What I'd like to do is have our photography people go ahead and start filming the interior and taking still photos.
We're going to look for electronics she purchased, roll-top desk, all the furniture inside the house. We'll also be seizing the house and another property that she has.
The bedroom suite upstairs, right?
Bedroom.
And the other picture's up there right over the bed.
And the curio.
Okay, which is right here.
The subject is actually a very enjoyable person. She has a nice personality, real friendly. The only problem is that she has a bit of a problem needing money, and so, you know, she'll laugh and smile with you. A very friendly person, but she'll just steal you blind. Most white-collar criminals that I deal with are like that. They're very enjoyable people to engage in conversations with, to talk with, and everything. But you better have your hand on your checkbook or on your pocketbook because they'll take it. We're going to be back out here at some point in time.
Last year, agents recovered about $3 billion worth of forged or embezzled assets. Just the tip of the iceberg.
What'll happen is on the houses and the property, what we'll go ahead and do following this is the Assistant United States Attorney will go ahead and file a complaint against your property that we've identified as being bought.
What are you checking for, Mike? Checking for any kind of contraband weapons, make sure personal effects, make sure everything's out of here. We'll be taking this car. The government will be seizing it. It'll become a government vehicle or be returned to the victim.
What's it worth, yeah?
It's purchased for about $22,000. It's a 93, you know, I only know what the market will bring. It'll probably bring about $15,000 in the open market. So that's what the victim or the government will get for it. White-collar crime is very profitable. A white-collar criminal will steal approximately 10 times more than a violent crimes criminal will. The smallest amount has been about $25,000. I'm working a case right now for $300 million. They make big dollars. She has really enjoyed it. It's been like the lifestyle of the rich and famous. She built a huge house, furnished it completely. All of her neighbors really amazed at where she was getting the money to put everything in there. I don't think that in her mind she has accepted the fact that she stole $1.6 million. She looked at it as a way to make a living. She thought, I think in her mind, that she thought this was owed to her. This money was owed to her in some fashion. That, you know, that this company should pay her let her steal $1.6 million. So no, she hasn't, in her mind, or to us at least, said, you know, yes, I'm guilty and I'm sorry.
Coming up.
We're taking most of the living furniture, the subject's bedroom furniture. We're leaving the children's bedroom furniture. Everything else just about goes out of the house.
So will she have nothing left to cook on, to sleep on?
She has a spare bedroom that she'll be sleeping in. She won't be sleeping in her master bedroom. Her children will be sleeping in their own bedrooms. We're not taking any of the kitchen appliances, but all the living room furniture, the big screen TV, and everything else we'll be taking. Watch your hand there.
Yeah. Okay. Watching that glass. I ain't
Yeah.
about my head.
Okay, coming down to a step.
Nearly a third of the FBI's manpower is now devoted to white-collar crime. Nationwide, 2,000 agents are working on the problem.
Everything that we're seizing here was bought with the illegally obtained money. And it's going to include this race car here. There's a couple engines that are very expensive. They could be, I think they're close to $25,000 engines. So these are considered proceeds of the crime.
Come on.
Keep pushing.
Okay.
Don't let it go.
I got it.
The equipment that she purchased was top of the line. Money was no problem, so she did go and purchase the best she could. I'm not sure exactly how much we're going to have here. It's probably going to be close to 100,000, maybe more.
We have to lift the front up, and I'll push it.
Just bring it up to it.
Jeez. Woo.
The agents are increasingly confronted with smarter and smarter individuals. The white-collar criminal can be extremely streetwise, and they know the systems, the mistakes that their colleagues have made in the past, and they adapt, devise new schemes all the time to cover their trails. And agents, in turn, are having to become smarter and use more sophisticated means for tracking these white-collar criminals.
To catch the cleverest of the white-collar criminals, the FBI has increasingly been forced to abandon conventional detective methods in favor of more aggressive techniques. Agents sometimes pose as criminals to catch their quarry red-handed. They call this a sting operation. This proactive approach has been extensively developed by the FBI over the past 20 years. It's now a mainstay of many white-collar crime investigations.
We try not to go after people who have not shown a predisposition to criminal work. And we try not to entice a person to commit a crime, in other words. So, but you do have to rely on informants, and sometimes informants make mistakes, just like we do. But we try to back it up by checking to make sure that that person is, in fact, a criminal.
Gentlemen, we're going to talk about today an undercover proposal. It's a renewal on an undercover operation.
Strict guidelines now govern all FBI sting operations. Each one is carefully reviewed to prevent errors which in the past led to the targeting of innocent people. Agents call this problem entrapment.
Has that been a problem?
No, boss, that's not been a problem. As a matter of fact, I've read this proposal, and to me, it addresses the entrapment issue fairly well. We only act in concert with these guys, that they are presently engaged in ongoing criminal activity. And so long as our undercover operation solely provides them a method or an access, we won't have a problem with any entrapment.
Do you approve of every buy?
Well, the undercover agents are and the case agents are very experienced, so they pretty much run the scenario by one another and everything before they do anything, and then they run it by me. But quite frankly, I don't think I've ever been presented with a scenario that I've ever turned down because of their experience level.
You have the opportunity to pull in people who have expertise in a number of areas. We actually hear the proposal from the agent that's going to investigate it. We talk to the supervisor. We explore the legal aspects of it. And a number of occasions we come up with a better idea or perhaps something that we missed that would make this a better operation. The FBI, in my opinion, does a very effective job of monitoring itself, and you do that effectively by learning from your mistakes.
Yeah, looks real clean.
Terrific. Nice job, Doug.
Thank you.
Good job.
Good. That's it.
For all the careful reviews, entrapment can still happen, and when an undercover sting goes wrong, the consequences can be serious. Michael Perdue was a university student in Fayetteville, Arkansas, when he became the subject of a sting operation. The FBI thought he was part of a conspiracy to murder 2 people, and in 1990 launched a covert operation to catch the culprits. But when the case came to court, the judge felt an undercover agent had entrapped an innocent man.
I thought that it was simply not fair the way the FBI handled this case. I thought that young Michael, as I believe the evidence shows, was dragged into something, was not allowed to turn loose, when I think there was some evidence that Michael wanted to turn loose. I think in this case, they overstepped the bounds of good sense.
Michael's father was serving time for robbery. A fellow inmate discovered that the father wanted to kill 2 witnesses who were due to testify against him in a perjury trial. The inmate told the FBI, and it sent in an agent posing as a hitman. The agent approached Michael and his father in the prison visiting room and asked Michael to come outside to talk about the plan. He wanted a down payment, and Michael's father asked his son to give him some money.
I just thought that he was just scamming my dad for the money. I really didn't think that it was a murder for hire scheme. I thought that it was just him trying to scam my dad out of some money. And that if I went out and gave him the money, then I would have upheld what I had told my dad that I would do, and no one would be hurt.
Would he have been upset if you hadn't have done it?
Yeah. He would have, I think it would have put him in a greater state of depression than what I'd seen him in the months since he'd been in prison.
Under pressure from both his father and the FBI hitman, Michael left the prison visiting room and met the undercover agent in the parking lot.
He asked me if I'd brought the pictures of the people, their addresses, and I told him no, because there was no plan before I ever got here of meeting with him or any knowledge of him even being here.
So you'd never been asked for any pictures before this point?
No, never been asked for any pictures before this.
The undercover agent, calling himself Chuck Ross, phoned Michael the next day and taped the call. He made it very clear he'd do the killing as long as he was paid. Michael had just talked about the plan with his grandfather when he took the call.
Hey,
Yeah.
you still there?
Yeah.
That's my grandpa, and I don't know. He's pretty.
I understand. Let's do this, Mike. I don't want.
Let me tell you what he's saying.
All right.
He's saying it's happening too fast for him, and it's a little bit fast for me too.
Well, hey, if you want to wait, that's fine. All I'm interested in. All I want to do is make sure there's green available, and then that's fine. And we'll work out the details for how we make contact later and what you're going to do with your alibi. There's ways to handle that, but we got to know.
Right. See, I think we need to talk about that because.
You don't necessarily even have to be there. There could be a drop somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chuck Ross, the undercover agent, asked Michael to meet him that night in a restaurant on the outskirts of Fayetteville. Ross wanted a firm guarantee that he'd get the $5,000 that Michael's father had promised as payment for the killings.
He was very persistent, and I guess you could say even as far as aggressive. He had told me when we were sitting in the restaurant that there were going to be some friends of his coming down to help him do this thing, and they had been going to drive a long ways, and that they wouldn't be happy when nothing was going to happen. They would be wanting to kill me, or they're going to be wanting to kill somebody.
If you didn't come up with the money, you mean?
Yes, and this thing didn't go through. And the killings didn't happen. At this point, I believe that he was a killer. And I was just really afraid. Especially when he started saying that, you know, there'd be more people. I mean, I already felt like I was dealing with a killer, and to think that there were more on the way was even more terrifying.
Michael persuaded Ross to delay the killing. With his father's trial only a week away, he hoped the plan would be forgotten. In July 1990, Michael's father pleaded guilty to perjury. His son thought the ordeal was over, but in September, he got another call from the agent.
Well, I'd just gotten back from visiting my dad. It was a Sunday visit, and I was laying in bed. He called and said, real quick, this thing's going down. Your dad's pressuring me to do the job.
Hello? Yeah, Mike. Yeah, real quick. I've been in touch with your dad. You talked to him? Today? Okay. Miss told me I got a letter from him. This thing's going to go down on the 18th, late at night, or in the morning on the 19th. Your grandpa better get your alibi set. He never said that to me back today. No, what he said to you, I got a letter from him. Anyway, you get your alibi set, I'll have some evidence to show you. Probably the next day or the day after.
I had not talked to him since the 8th of July, 2.5 months.
And your father's perjury trial was over, so there was no real need for the killing anymore?
No. That was the whole reason was that they were going to testify. And
against your father?
Right, exactly, in his perjury trial. And he pled guilty to the perjury.
Four days later, on September the 20th, Chuck Ross telephoned him again. Michael was at home. It was 20 to 7 in the morning.
Hello?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah?
This is Chuck. The deal's done. I'm worn out. I need to get some proofs. I need to let you look at, and then I need to get out of here. I'll be down at Shoney's at 5 o'clock tonight. Same place we met.
Okay. Well, Chuck, I was going to tell you that I didn't want to meet with you, but I guess it's too late now.
Well, I got to show you this proof. I want to get my money. The agreement is the money's mailed to a post office box. Once you look at some proof, that's all I want to do is show it to you, and I'm out of here. I'll just see you there at 5 o'clock, same place.
Tonight?
Yeah, 5 o'clock. I'm a long ways. I'm away from here. I got to drive. I'll be there at 5 o'clock tonight. Then I'm gone. That's the last time I want to see you.
Did you really believe he'd killed the Harringtons?
Yes.
What effect did that have on you?
It just made me very sick. I got up and was vomiting. And was just really sick. sickened by it. The phone call.
The undercover agent brought some fake evidence to their meeting at the restaurant later that day.
I came in, he was sitting at a table, looking at a magazine. I sat down and he said, when I pass the magazine over to you, flip to the center, and you'll see the photographs of the Harringtons.
And what did you see when you looked?
I saw, I believe there was 3 pictures of Bob and Janice Harrington laying on the ground with their hands duct taped behind their back and their mouths duct taped with gunshot wounds to the head and the neck, I believe, and blood all over their faces and their necks.
And what did you say?
I really didn't know what to say. I was trying to look for some evidence from the photographs that maybe this hadn't really happened.
Michael, his father, and his grandfather were tried for conspiracy in a murder-for-hire scheme. The jury decided they were all guilty. The judge disagreed. He thought Michael's father was the only culprit. The judge had spent long hours listening to the surveillance tapes, and he overruled the verdict on Michael and his grandfather. It was a highly unusual step. Taken, he wrote in his decision, because the FBI undercover agent had behaved outrageously.
It was a question of justice. It was a question of fair play. This young man had almost nothing to do with this other than to do what he was told to do by Ross after a certain point in the whole affair anyway. He was pulled along. He was not part of, he was not one of the planners at least of anything ever. His role instead was to, unfortunately, go out on the parking lot, deliver the money, and then do from that point on what Chuck Ross directed him to do, usually at very odd hours of the night, under settings that, and circumstances that would cause any 20-year-old kid to be concerned about what would happen to him if he didn't carry out this vicious hitman's every direction.
He don't want to talk to each other. He's fussy about that stuff. But
that's his shot. I got to feel sure of myself. Sounds like he's the man. It sounds like he's the one calling the shots. Sounds like you're in the middle.
Yeah. Between him and my dad, and he's worried that he thinks that he probably ought to be out of town.
That's all right. He's out of town. I don't care if he's out of town. What I'm saying is, once I kill these people, then my neck's stuck out.
I do not believe he would have been in any way involved in a murder. I don't believe there'd have been a murder. Now again, obviously I can't swear that that's true. I can't be certain of that, but based on everything that I saw, I do not believe there would have been a murder without the FBI's involvement. I don't think they stopped a murder from occurring.
Undercover stings are an essential part of the fight against modern crime, but they need very sensitive handling. In Michael Pardue's case, the judge felt the FBI had made a criminal of an innocent man. On a point of law, a higher court later reinstated the jury's verdict. Michael thought he would soon be sent to prison.
I have accepted it, and if that's what, as the trial judge sentences me to, then I will go, and when I get out, try to just try to make the best.
Michael was fined and given 3 years probation. Judge Waters decided not to send him to jail. The FBI was not willing to discuss Michael Pardue's case on this program. The Bureau says it never discusses anything about undercover operations. The Pardue case is clearly an embarrassment to an organization that prides itself on the highest standards and getting it right.
When an agent goes through the academy, he's told all the way through that he's being trained to be the best agent in the world. And when he graduates, the graduation speech says you're the best that there is in the United States. And so when they come out, they feel, as you would expect them to, that they're wonderful and they are good. There's no question about it. But they basically set them up so that if they do something wrong and somebody criticizes them, they feel like it's a personal affront to them. And I think that that probably happens at the Bureau. They've been held at the top and in high esteem for as long as they've been around, and it hurts.
In 1993, the FBI hit its lowest point for many years. Its director stood accused of ethical violations and had to be fired. Worse still was the tragedy in Waco, Texas, when the FBI and the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms laid siege to the home of a religious group called the Branch Davidians. It ended with the deaths of 75 people, killed when the building caught fire as the FBI was trying to force the occupants out. Just 9 people survived. An internal report cleared the Bureau of blame, but it was the biggest loss of life of any FBI operation. Just 3 months after the end of the Waco siege, special agents held their annual get-together in Chicago. There were seminars, speeches, and a morale-boosting prize giving. One of the prizes was given to the FBI's hostage rescue team, honored for its work during the Waco siege. The timing of this award and the tone of the acceptance speech was a sign of just how inward-looking special agents can sometimes be.
We were prepared for what we had done, but what we weren't prepared for was some of the hammering that we took in the press. That was something that we hadn't trained for. I know when the association called and said they would like to present us with an award, I know I speak on behalf of my teammates that we look at that as our peers in the field who say, hey, you did a good job. And I think that's what the job for us is all about, that when your fellow agent says, hey, you did a good job, then everything else doesn't matter. So the heck with the press and the heck with some of the other folks.
Bear true allegiance to the same.
That I take this obligation freely.
That I take this obligation freely.
Without any mental reservation.
Without any mental reservation.
Or purpose of evasion.
Or purpose of evasion.
In September 1993, Louis Freeh took up his post as the new FBI director. His inaugural speech promised a principled approach to law enforcement.
As we move forward to the year 2000, we need to keep an open mind on the remarkable strengths as well as some of the failings of our past. The FBI must always serve the cause of justice by upholding the Constitution and the rule of law. All of us in the FBI, no matter what our jobs, must be absolutely honest and fair in everything we do. We must carry out the responsibilities given to us by the President, the the Attorney General, and the Congress. We must effectively and fairly enforce the law.
The new director has set a very moral tone for his agents as they approach the 21st century. But high standards have been promised before by predecessors who failed to live up to what they preached. With the long and controversial history of the FBI, the new director will need great determination to ensure that his words do not become empty rhetoric.
What we're talking about that the Bureau must do is keep its finger on the pulse of the American society as to how it is evolving, how it is changing, and keep in sync with that so that they don't get out of step with the changes that are occurring, the changes that cannot be stopped. And I think if the Bureau will do that and then keep in mind its primary objective of protecting the American people, it will be successful and it will maintain the respect and support of the American public.
I think that what they need to do in the long run is change the attitude. When we fight wars, whether wars on crime or whatever, innocent people are sometimes hurt. We need to make certain and be careful that we don't tread on individual liberties, individual rights for the sole sake of catching a criminal once in a while. The mood needs to change, and when the mood changes, then I think law enforcement people, agencies like the FBI will change along with it.
This program was produced by Connaught Films Limited for Channel 4 and for WETA, who are solely responsible for its content. Funding for this program is provided by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by annual financial support from viewers like you. To order a video cassette of Inside the FBI for educational use only, call 1-800-328-PBS-1 or write to the address on the screen.
This is PBS.